Okay, so this is a well that was at 1,200 feet, is what I was told, and but the pump is what I ended up finding out. The pump is at about 340 feet. So this is what I was just getting started. I was just pulling that the seal off, the cap off. It's just got 4 bolts on that top plate, and then there's a big rubber washer, thick like a 2 inch or inch thick, and then there's a plate underneath, and so those bolts go down into the threads underneath, and they squeeze that washer, and then of course the top of that sets on top of the casing. It's a 4 inch. So this is just a clip of me getting that popped loose. Probably should have slowed that down a little bit, but anyways, this is when I started actually pulling the pipe up. They're 21-foot sections. I ended up building that A-frame. I welded it together, and then I just bolted it onto the pallet forks that I have there. And I already had that hoist, so I was able to make my own well pulling rig, so to speak. Nothing near as good as what the professionals have, but it sure got the job done for this anyways. That hoist is rated at 2,000 pounds, and if if the pump was much deeper than what it ended up being on this job, then it probably wouldn't have handled it. The problem I was having with this well was that it just was only putting out about half a gallon a minute, which isn't near enough. It's watering cattle. Once I got the pump pulled out of there, I found out that the pump that was in there was rated at 7 gallons a minute as a 3/4 horse pump. And the main problem ended up being that there was a bunch of sediment, about 6 inches of sediment built up in the pipe right above the check valve on the pump, and it was really packed in there, so that pump just couldn't push past that, and there was no way to get it out of the pipe. Because this one of my neighbors had this well pulled 25 or 30 years ago, and so he remembered doing it, and it worked really good until just a couple of years ago, and then I could really notice it was struggling. I finally just decided to do something about it. I probably should have just hired somebody to pull it, but I don't know, it didn't been about maybe $1,000 to hire somebody, and sometimes I'm just stubborn and almost like I feel like I can do it better myself sometimes. But anyways, I'd had to buy that snatch block too, which is that green thing with the pulley on it, and then it's got the swivel hook, and I needed that because when I lift these 21-foot sections up, I made that plate. I just use a torch and cut a notch in that plate so I can set the coupling on that plate, but I need that the swivel on top so that when I go to unscrew that pipe, it'll turn up top. The cable, I just tried to coil it up behind me, and that actually worked pretty well. It's kind of slow doing it the way I had it here. That hoist is 110 volt. There's power here because the well needs power, obviously, so that made it a little easier. But like them well pulling rigs, I'm pretty sure they have a hydraulic motor running the cable, and they work way faster than what I'm doing here. But for just a DIY deal. I thought it worked pretty well, actually. And this pipe was not all full of water, which was a big help to me. I couldn't figure out. At one point in time, there was a weep hole about 4, 5, 6 feet down, but there wasn't on this pipe that I pulled. There was no hole up there. There was no evidence of any rust or anything on the pipe at that level. And I can't figure out what they did. I asked the guy if they had replaced the pipe last time they did, and he says they did, but I don't know if that's normal for that pipe to corrode that much that it would drain back. Because what was happening was that water was draining back, and I think it was probably at the water level, which ended up being 13 sticks in. So anyways, the fact that that pipe wasn't all full of water helped a little bit, but I think I also did the calculations and it would have only been like 20 gallons of water or something, so it wouldn't have been a huge additional weight. I had to extend the controls on that hoist because, you know, I had to reach out 25 feet with it. I just took an extension cord and spliced it in there, and that worked fine. And I had to make that tool, that piece that spins onto the top that I hook onto, and I welded that square tubing on there. It's fairly thick tubing, on the chance that if something came loose, then that, you know, this tubing is wide enough that it would catch on top of that casing. That casing on that well is, I guess it's the drill stem they used when they punched them back in the 60s, is what I was told. So it ended up, it was darn sure a slow process, but it went pretty well, I guess. I had never done this before, and I have a pretty good idea what I'm doing, but I guess if I screw up on anything too bad, I would appreciate it if somebody would comment on it or something. Somebody knows better, but I did the best job I knew how to do. I'll have to end up making 2 videos of pulling the well and then 1 or 2 of hanging it. Yeah, I get to the next video, but I hit water at 13, I think halfway through the 13th stick. And so the pump ended up being in 70 or 80 feet of water. And the guy at the pump shop told me to go back in with no check valve this time. Partly because of the way the way this is set up, it just pumps water up into a big tank, a big tire tank, and there's a float on the tank that triggers the pump to turn on and off. And So it needs to drain back into the well a little bit so it doesn't freeze in the winter time. But yeah, he said go back in with no check valve, and I liked that idea a lot, especially once I realized what had caused the problem in the first place was that all that sediment built up right above the old check valve on the old pump. So I don't know, maybe we're mistaken there, but it seems like in theory that was a good thing to do, because then all that stuff would wash back through the pump back into the well, I guess. Yeah, it's about at the end of the first video here.